All right, Krystal, what's on your radar?
Well, friends, we will probably end the week regretting our candor and what we expect to happen tonight, but whatever. We always try to be upfront with you guys about exactly what we are thinking about everything. So first of all, before I show you my specific map, I think the story of this election is ultimately going to be twofold. One is seniors fleeing Trump over COVID, something we've talked about quite a bit on this show. For some portion of voters, and especially older voters, Biden's pledge to follow the science and wear a mask and generally take the pandemic seriously was inspiring enough. Meanwhile, Trump literally spent the final days of this campaign threatening to fire the nation's most popular public health official. Cases have reached new record-breaking levels, and the virus is so widespread now that it's become impossible to contact trace. Trump and the Republican Party have taken the position that because it's mostly the elderly who are dying, it's really no big deal. And some pro-life party you got there. Those elderly voters are about to have their say about whether or not it is really a big deal. But the second story is the revenge of the suburban women. I remember right after Trump was elected, I was actually living in Louisville, Kentucky, and the shift that I noted right away in my fellow swim team moms. So previously, when I said I worked in politics, they'd get kind of uncomfortable, get a little bit quiet, but suddenly they wanted to talk. They had questions, they had opinions that they were ready to offer. The election of Donald Trump had politicized them in a way that they had never been before. Now, these are the type of women who have showed up at protests and the Women's March and made up the backbone of new groups like Indivisible and the viewing audience of MSNBC. Many started giving to political campaigns, volunteering, and some even ran for office themselves. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the show, you know that affluent suburban women are hardly my favorite political demographic because their politics tend towards the symbolic and the stylistic. These are the resistance liberals who have made the Lincoln Project rich and hang on every plot twist of Russiagate. But you gotta respect the tenacity, the passion, and the sheer determination that millions of suburban women have shown across the country to exercise their will. They were one of the vital keys to Joe Biden's defeat of Bernie Sanders in the primary, and I believe this week they will achieve their ultimate goal, defeating Donald Trump. So let's talk specific states. Here, without further ado, is my map. All right, I made a few bold calls. Let's go through them. First, let me start with the toss-up states that I gave to Trump. I gotta say, based on the insane turnout levels we're seeing in the Texas suburbs, it would not shock me to see Biden pull off the win there. But I think we may still be 4 years away from the realignment that would actually bring Texas into the Democrats' column. If Biden was as strong with Latinos as Obama and Hillary had been, he might have pulled it off this time. But I think there's just enough going there to keep Texas for the GOP for now. My view of Georgia is similar. Dems are almost there, but maybe not quite. The early turnout data seems to show younger minorities in particular lagging a bit, which could be key for driving up the score in young, diverse places like Atlanta. North Carolina, on the other hand, I gave that state to Biden. The state's got a popular Democratic governor and a fairly large proportion of college-educated voters. The fact that Republicans could possibly lose Mark Meadows' congressional seat there tells me that the district-level data shows Dems in a pretty strong position. Arizona combines both the suburban story and the senior story. It's a state that's been slowly trending blue for a while now. And the incumbent Republican senator also looks set for a significant loss. Unlike Texas, I think Arizona is far enough along the realignment track for Dems to pick it off this year. I also gave Florida to Biden, although I agonized over this one quite a bit. But ultimately, look, Florida has the second oldest population in the country, and those seniors are turning out to vote in record numbers. Biden's relative weakness with Latinos is keeping Trump in the game, but I'm betting that the gray wave is enough to give Biden a narrow victory today in the Sunshine State. Maybe my boldest call, however, is this next one, Ohio. Now, it's a state I used to live in, so I do know it decently well, and there were 3 factors that put me over the edge here. One, it's experiencing a terrible COVID outbreak right now, and the state's Republican governor has actually broken with Trump over his attacks on Fauci. Second, Trump made a lot of promises, in Ohio specifically, and he did not deliver. In particular, when he told workers in the Mahoning Valley this.
And I'll tell you what, I rode through your beautiful roads coming up from the airport, and I was looking at some of those big, once incredible job-producing factories, and my wife, Melania, said, "What happened?" I said, "Those jobs have left Ohio. They're all coming back. They're all coming back. Coming back. Don't move. Don't sell your house. Don't sell your house. Remember, I got a lot of credit.
Well, guess what? GM closed their Lordstown plant, making Trump just another politician making promises to blue-collar workers that they never intend to actually keep. May not move a lot of non-college educated voters to the Biden column, but it could be just enough to give him what he needs to get through, especially since Biden's got a bit of a halo from his affiliation with the auto bailout and tellingly made a stop in the state of Ohio on Monday. That tells me their data shows they got a shot at it, or else they wouldn't be wasting their time. So that's it. Blue wall goes back to blue as they grapple with a horrendous COVID spike, and Biden wins a big electoral college victory by promising little other than not being Trump. Is it inspiring? No. But for seniors wanting to survive and suburbanites wanting to go back to brunch, it is more than enough. And that one in Ohio, that's definitely my boldest call.
That's a bold call, Krystal.
I'm out on a limb there. Yeah. I don't even know about that one. But, I look at the surrounding states in Ohio, first of all, and Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota have all pulled significantly away from Trump, 5, 6, 7, even up to 10 points, something like that in Minnesota. And Ohio, right now, if you look at the numbers, they have this massive COVID spike, and they have this very clear example of President Trump letting them down. We also shouldn't forget, Sherrod Brown is still Democratic senator there.
That's right.
Democrats still can win statewide in the state of Ohio if they have this sort of, right populist message and connect with people. I think Joe Biden has a bit of a halo from the GM auto bailout, so maybe. You never know.
No, I think you're right. So this is kind of interesting. I kind of see my map in one scenario. The median expected projection for Biden is an 8-point popular vote victory, which kind of aligns with the map that we put up at the first part of the show with 350 votes. I kind of put it in the 6-point. So that's why I gave him Florida, I gave him North Carolina, but losing everything else. You, I think, are putting it in the 10-point range, which is that in the 10-point range, that with that increased turnout and more, that's when you start to lose Ohio. It could possibly even lose Texas.
It depends state by state, because if you're actually in the 10-point range, then you are starting to look at Texas.
Yes.
And that is a state that I think is right on the borderline. That was another one that I really thought hard about. I had felt pretty confident that Trump was going to hold on to Texas until I started to see those turnout numbers and where the turnout was. The suburbs are coming out in
Houston,
droves.
Dallas,
yes.
Yeah.
Going crazy to come out and vote in numbers that we have never seen before. That gave me a little bit of pause about Texas, but I think because Biden has underperformed with Latinos, and I think you'll have an energized Republican base there as well that turns out today on Election Day, I think Trump is able to hold on, but that wouldn't be crazy to me if ultimately Biden did pick up Texas.
That's certainly a good thing. I think the real question here is it going to be an overperformance or an underperformance? And then obviously to what degree? And that was the thing is with Trump, for Trump to win, it basically has to go back to that 3% margin. So that's a 5-point miss on the national popular vote.
Yeah.
That would be huge,
Huge.
right? But then conceivably, remember, a Trump win is just as likely as a Biden landslide. So then you also have to enter within the realm of possibility of what does that look like? That's when you get like 413 electoral votes.
Yeah.
Or something like that, which I think are both within the realm of that. I think that's a 10% chance. I think Trump's win is around maybe like 15 or 20% or something like that. And that within the median, it's kind of where we're both falling. I think it is really interesting, though, to look at those dynamics. The Ohio one would probably mean a large underperformance with white working class voters. I just haven't seen that as much yet. There's been some. He's still winning them though by almost like a 54% or something.
Yeah.
But not the 60 or something that he did last time around.
You have seen some erosion, and you've seen it maybe even more at the district level data than you have at the state level or certainly the national level data. Places like Connor Lamb's district in Pennsylvania, where you had a fair amount of white working class voters, those have really Connor Lamb, that was a nail biter when he won. That was actually a big upset when he won. This time it's rated, he's going to cruise to re-election, no problem. We're seeing that there was another district in Pennsylvania where the Republican congressman was bragging like, oh, Trump's doing great here. He's up by 10. Well, Trump won that district by 20 last time around. So we are seeing some of that erosion. Will it be enough to put all the industrial Midwestern states back in the blue column? I think that's an open question. But what a statement that would be on his presidency ultimately, because he really staked his whole presidency on that specific region of the country. And those states, some of those states are basically already gone. If he were to win Wisconsin or Michigan, I think a lot of heads would absolutely explode. It would have to be a massive polling miss at this time. So I think that's a real statement on the way that his presidency actually turned out versus some of the promises that were made in 2016. The one last thing that I noticed when I was going through the numbers this year versus 2016 is we tend to think in this monolithic way of like the polls were off and ultimately they undercounted Trump support. That was actually not true everywhere. So certain states in the country, especially Arizona, I believe was one of them, understated Hillary's support a little bit. So just because you have a miss in one state doesn't mean that it's going to be the same miss everywhere. And for Trump to pull off the win today, every state's polling would basically have to be off in the same direction, which is not actually what happened in 16.
No, that's right. And I actually want people to understand that, which is that there's going to be misses. You know, nobody can predict this stuff perfectly.
Yeah.
But the misses are going to be different. In the Midwest, it's going to be a white working class. I think if the misses are overskewed to Biden in the Sun Belt, it's going to be college-educated whites. In Florida, could be Hispanics. Arizona could be the same story. Nevada, white working class. So again, completely different populations. Overperformance and underperformance. Also, black turnout relative to where it was in 2016 in Georgia could make a huge difference. I was reading about how there was very large depressed black turnout in 2016. Trump still won the state. But if they come out and then bolster the college-educated population's vote, Biden can win. And that's kind of what I think is going to happen. So lots going on tonight.
Yeah, I think one of the really fascinating things will be after the dust is settled to look at how the realignment is shaking out and what new states are blue states are red states, how that all looks. It's going to be a fascinating week. All right, we'll have more Rising for you after this.